The AsIs podcast does not necessarily hold the views or opinions of our guests. The guests have a right to express their own thoughts, and those thoughts are protected with their freedom of speech. What they say is what they say, and we allow them the right to speak on their own behalf. The AsIs podcast is not responsible nor liable for the opinions and stories of others. Welcome to another edition of the AsIs podcast. Our special guests today are R. Kelly sisters for a part 2, and they have a special guest. Special guest, you want to announce yourself?
Hi, this is Dottie.
Hey, Dottie, what's going on?
How you doing?
I'm good. How you guys doing? How's everybody tonight?
Doing well. Hope everyone's well.
That's what's up. Hey, let's get right into it. You know what? I got to ask you guys a couple of tough questions. And one of the questions, just for the sake of argument, because I know where the conversation may head. And let me just give you my disclaimer on it. I personally feel that, there are people who try to discredit you guys with being his sisters and this, that, and the other. And my answer to that is if R. Kelly has accepted you, I can give less than a shit what somebody feels or what they don't feel. Like, that is not my business. I think you're doing whatever you're doing with a good heart because you're trying to help them. I don't have time to think about the intent or the intentions of it, but you still are going to have critics. So let's just immediately get that out the way and give me your opinion on that.
I would just say, period, bottom line, we are who we are, and we've had our share of trying to prove something to people. And, right now we're here just for our brother. That's it. Not all the he said, she said stuff, but we're here to support him. That's it.
Okay. That works for me. Okay,
So I'm not going to get into all that. Yeah. Okay.
That's fine. Let's get into what we're here for. I understand that you guys have some things that you want to talk about.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right. Well, it's the calm before the storm, huh? You know what? Let's just talk about some of the... Let's get into let's get into some of the things that's been going around and circulating, and we don't have to stay on it. But there's a guy that's running around reading letters that's supposed to be from R. Kelly, and he's doing whatever he's doing with those. Are you guys familiar with those letters, or have you heard about that?
I'm familiar with the letters that Robert wrote to Cassandra and I.
Okay.
Those are the only letters I'm familiar with.
Okay. So you guys do have letters as well.
We don't have copies of them.
Okay.
But
No.
We've read a few of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of the contents of those letters. Who wants to start?
Excuse me, I'll start.
Okay.
Robert was mentioning about when he was at MCC, he had talked about some of the things that had happened to him there. And it's really, really disheartening the way that he was treated. And what really got me is how I don't understand why was his legal documentation taken. I mean, it's not a weapon. It's not something that can be used as a weapon. I don't understand why was his legal documentation taken from him and he didn't have access to it. He complained about it. It wasn't given back until after the trial. And then he told me that also his medical records weren't given back to him till after the bail hearing. I don't understand it, the bond hearing. I don't understand any of this.
So everything that he did to prepare himself for the trial was in that file that they held from him. And again, he went to trial, not having what he needed, unprepared. And then after the trial, that's when he gets his stuff back.
Wow.
And so, it's a lot of things, a lot of his rights have been violated. We've been saying that for going on 3 years now. It's just a lot of stuff that's just unfair and his rights have been violated.
Let me ask you this though. Even if they didn't give him his paperwork, wouldn't it be the lawyer's responsibility to get his paperwork?
It was the lawyer's responsibility. The lawyers went to the judge, and it still wouldn't get what it was not given back till after the verdict.
Did anybody?
So the lawyers worked after the verdict. That's when his legal documentation was given back.
Did anybody ask why?
Now that I'm not sure of anybody, but I'm just going by what he wrote to me.
Wow.
And that I'm not understanding. His main concern is if anything happens to him, God forbid, and I hope nothing does, he wants to make sure the world is not looking at him as some predator, as some scum, like the media has made him out to be. He wants his story out there, the way it really happened. Right. And that's his concern. And I don't blame him because a name is a lot.
Right. Who was the lawyer that was assigned to get the paperwork back?
Well, this is when he was in MCC. He was at MCC when I was talking about the medical records that showed that he, concerning his diabetes.
Okay. And who was his lawyer?
Steve was his lawyer then.
Okay. Let me ask you this, man, and just be straight honest. How do you guys feel about Steve Greenberg?
I don't have a comment about Steve, but I just question some of the things and I have a concern about some of the things that have been mentioned to me concerning how Robert was treated at MCC. And I do have a concern about that because this is coming straight from him. It's not something that's been made up, and I have a concern. If he has a concern, I have a concern too.
Right. Because
I don't understand why was he in there 71 days in the shoe.
Right. But
I don't understand that.
Yeah, his body's breaking out. Body was breaking out, and bumps in his head. You know what I'm saying?
And everything's being taken
crushed. Yeah.
Wait, you guys.
The bottom.
Say it. Could you say that again? One at a time. One at a time.
He was in the shoe 71 days. Going through all this turmoil, his body breaking down, and he's not understanding, okay, why is it that I'm in here with someone that hadn't been vaccinated? He's not understanding. And this is someone that's supposed to have, the media is trying to deem as a pedophile, trying to deem as this big time racketeer, head honcho person. This is what they're trying to paint. You know what I'm saying? He's writing letters to his sisters, and he wants to get an understanding of, why am I being treated like this? He's not crazy. Why am I being treated this way? What have I done? Who have I pissed off that I'm being treated like this?
And yet he still says, I forgive them. I forgive them. But he wants his truth to be out. He wants to have a voice, which they have not given him for 3 years now. Of the voice to tell his story, the voice to tell the truth.
Let me ask you this, and I know you guys may not want to go here, but do you think in his mental condition right now, because he wants that voice so desperately, that he may make a mistake? And the reason why I have to go here is because I'm going to go to the letters that are circulating around on the internet or being read on the internet.
Circulating? There are no letters from Robert that are circulating.
Okay. Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I mean, hey, listen. The question that I was going to ask is, do you think that a person that's in that condition, mentally breaking down, and they want to get their story out, will just latch on to anyone who comes along that they think can help them?
No, I don't. I really and honestly don't.
Because what's strange to me is, even on my platform, I got to call a spade a spade. I'm just starting this platform. I think I got 11 shows, 10 shows in already. So I'm definitely not the biggest person to even have these type of conversations. I appreciate having these conversations, and I know the story will get out. But Robert, you would think that Robert has the ability to go to CBS, ABC, NBC, CNN. You know, somebody that will listen to the story and allow him to get it out. Do you think that America just wants to shut him up, and throw away the key?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
You're talking about when we're in New York, we're talking to mainstream media, and they're saying they're not going to get paid unless they talk about anything negative. The narrative has to be negative about Robert. This is what we're talking about. So yes, I do believe they're trying to make sure his voice is silenced. Yes, I do.
Right. But again, it still takes me to this because do you think he knows that?
Yes, he knows that.
Yes, he knows that.
He knows.
And it's heartbreaking to him. And he says, hey, I gave 30 years of making good music, the gift that God himself have blessed him with, to share with the world. And this is what he gets. This is it.
Yeah. That doesn't seem...
As much as we would love the world to have love in their heart and all men, and to abide by the golden rule and love one another and treat each other with love and kindness, it's not like that. We would love for people to be that. The world would be a better place.
Right.
But unfortunately, it's not.
Right.
It's not that way.
So the world is now led with hatred.
So do you think people have figured that out from the outside, and this is what's allowing people to come in and have letters read or have says or whatever? Like, because I'm just going to be honest with you, like, and you guys don't have to agree, and I'm fine with that. But what I'm saying is, what would make it kind of seem true that maybe some of these things that are being said there's truth behind it is simply because, in all honesty, Robert is a desperate man right now. He's looking at 90 years. He's behind bars. He's been in jail for 3 years. And it had to dawn on him that this might be where the buck stops. And because of that, people do rash things at times. And do you think that that's possible? Like, be honest. Let's take away the love for your brother, and let's just look at it as a human being, from you looking from the outside in. Do you think that's possible? He could go through those kind of emotions?
Now, what kind of...
So what's the question?
Explain to me, what type of emotions are we talking about here?
When I say...
Yeah, I would need to know the bottom line question again.
No, you know what? Can I answer that? Sure. I don't think that he's necessarily just rushing and doing something because he don't see no out in it.
That's
from my understanding, from what I'm hearing from the letters, these letters could have been started when he was at MCC. Because they're ongoing, he's adding to it. So it's not nothing that he's just doing spur of the moment, and it's just like, the last thing he could think to come up with. I think it's something that he started once he realized his voice wasn't being heard and things was being kept from him, or being kept from everybody, and it was only one side of the story getting out. I think that's when he started, okay, well, let me write down what I'm saying and what's going on in here, and eventually it's going to be given to someone to get put out.
Right. But the someone that has been given to, or the someone that stepped up to say that it was given to him, I'm not going to say whether it's credible or it's non-credible. What I'm going to ask is, why do you think a person of that caliber or stature would get it? And the reason why I'm saying is I'm going to knock myself because, I don't think that I'm big enough to carry a story like that, and I damn sure don't think anybody else is, to where it would get the kind of attention that it actually deserves. So how does information like that end up in the hands of somebody on YouTube? And Dottie, I'm going to ask you that question.
Well, I personally look at it like, well, you said earlier, all the big name stations turned their back on them.
Right.
They only wanted to promote the negative stuff. They wanted to promote the drama. They wasn't going to get paid if you said something positive about Robert.
Right.
So at the end of the day, he had to give it to who was ever willing to use a platform, minus everything else, just to get his story out.
Right.
And I don't know if that's going to be the only platform because he wants it to reach millions.
Right.
He just wants his story to keep being told. So I just think that was the person that I don't know how it happened, but I just think that was one of the people that eventually will get the letter to put out.
Right. You know what? There are so many people that are involved in this case that are dual personalities. And I, you know, like I talked to you earlier, and we were talking about something, but I'm not going to go there. What I'll say is, like, you know, there was a private investigator involved with this that came from Nicole Becker, and he was snooping around and trying to get information. And I didn't even trust him. Like, he's gotten in contact with me several times, in addition to another investigator. So there has to be a leak somewhere within the camp for him to even get those letters out. How do you guys feel about the leak? Because there has to be one. Like, there has to be someone that's an intermediary to get this stuff back to the streets. Do you think that person is trustworthy? And can you figure out who it is?
Now, when you say leak, what leak are you saying? Are you talking about what leak are you talking about? Copies of letters?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Exactly.
There are none.
There are no copies of letters.
So you guys are denouncing the letters 100%.
There are no letters.
They're not denouncing the letters. They're not denouncing the letters at all. They just saying there's not multiple people that have access to to those letters.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay. So, but the person, whoever that person is that might have access, do you think that person is trustworthy?
Evidently, if
it's the person that I know, if it's the person that I know that was authorized, yes, I believe they are trustworthy. But anybody else, no, because I wasn't told. Right. I wasn't informed about anyone else but one person.
Can you talk about?
And there aren't copies.
Can you talk about the authorized person?
I don't want to.
I mean, my thing is, my question is, what's the big deal about our brother getting his word out, and what avenue and people he should use, to get the word out? What's the big deal about it?
Well, I'm
trying to understand.
And I know I've asked that question. It seems like I've stuck on this several times. Here's what I'll say to that, and I'll answer it as best as I can. I think that sometimes, I think that sometimes who says what for you is a reflection of you. So if you know, I'm gonna give you a great example. I'm just gonna go ahead and go there. I'm not gonna sugarcoat the shit. I listened to one of the letters. I listened to some of the comments. I read some of the comments, excuse me. One of the comments that was said was there were going to be letters taken, and they were going to be taken to Funk Master Flex to read on the air in New York. Now, let me just tell you why I think that's a whole bunch of crap. And my opinion is in law. So what I'm going to say, I'm going to produce receipts for, and you will be allowed to produce your own receipts. Type in Funk Master Flex R. Kelly on Google. Funk Master Flex R. Kelly on Google. What you will see pop up on the screen is Funk Master Flex saying every derogatory, hateful thing he could possibly say about R. Kelly. He blamed the DJs for R. Kelly being who R. Kelly is and getting as big as he was. He called him every name in the book. Now, with that being said, that's just a little bit of homework that anybody can do. How does it now turn around that there are letters, or allegedly letters, that someone is reading, and the letters have been taken to Funk Master Flex to speak for R. Kelly? What do you mean, how is that not, how, if he's getting the information out? You're giving the information that this man wants to maintain his innocence from someone who has openly and publicly hated you to the point where he talked about you like a dog, not in private, but public. And you mean to tell me nobody has decided, or nobody has had the sense to say, you know what? Let me do my due diligence. What I see is a lot of people having their opinions and doing their investigations, but nobody does investigations where it counts. Because how could anyone even accept the fact that Funk Master Flex is going to read anything from R. Kelly when he's called him a pedophile and a child molester, and you can Google the shit and look at it?
Yeah, but nobody knows that. Nobody knows that Funk. This is, what is it? Funk Master Flex, nobody knows if he really has any letters.
But
it's just hearsay. That's all under the category of hearsay.
But listen to me. Hear me out. Hear where I'm going with the hearsay. Hearsay is what got R. Kelly in jail, not proof. Hearsay. Show me some evidence. Show me some sexual assault. Show me, even though I did the documentary, a girl said that he made her eat shit. I didn't see that, but I heard it. So what is it? Hearsay. And guess what hearsay did? Got him a court case. So you can't be selective as to what you want to select for evidence and non-evidence. You have to address everything. And it's similar to what you said in the first interview. If you shut the shit down from the door, won't nobody else do it no more. Period. So why not shut it down?
How do you know it's not being shut down? It could be being shut down.
It is right now. This is part of it right now. It's a slow process, but it's still something that as a journalist, I have to ask and you have to address, because you still have to be fair. I think it would be unfair to go to R. Kelly and be pro R. Kelly and say he's an angel and not acknowledge that there was something that was wrong. And it doesn't have to apply to a case, because
Robert never said he was an angel, but he damn sure hadn't done any racketeering. He never said he was an angel.
I didn't say
even in his letters, he even says he's not an angel. But he damn sure there's certain things that he just have not done.
I didn't say he did, and I understand that this is sensitive for you, and that's your brother, so you're going to take it that way. I didn't say that. I was giving an example.
I know what you were doing.
You know what I'm saying?
But Robert is in jail. He's not desperate. Yes, he's had some he's had some issues. Anybody being sitting in jail, of course they'll start thinking about a lot of things, but that doesn't make him crazy or mental. He knows exactly what he's doing. Now, as far as this Funk Master Flex, he has nothing to do with Robert. He has nothing to do with the letters at all.
Right.
So I don't know where that came from. I really don't care where it came from, but I know for a fact this man doesn't have anything to do with Robert's story.
Right.
That's just all hearsay. Just like a lot of it, like you said, just like a lot of it is hearsay.
And at the end of the day, I can agree with you. And as you being his sister, you would feel that way. And I definitely understand. But for me, being a journalist, it's my job to know what's being said all the way around the block before I even get on top of it. That's just me doing my due diligence.
And I appreciate your journalism.
And I don't understand.
I'm just telling you for a fact that I know the letters are not circulating all over the web.
Right.
They're not.
When I say letters circulating, when I say, Dottie, give me 1 second just to say to you. You know what? I'm sorry. No, Dottie, you go. I'm talking too much. Go, Dottie.
What I wanted to say on that, and it's, I feel like the goal is to change the narrative. We can't keep talking to people that already say free R. Kelly because they know the truth. The goal is to touch the people that don't necessarily believe it. You had this to say about R. Kelly, you had that to say about R. Kelly, and you based it all on what you've seen in the media. So the goal is to take to them his side. He's never told his side of anything. So it's the goal is to reach them and to change their mind on how they look at the situation.
Right.
So I would think if they did take it to someone who was at one point, F. R. Kelly, he did see that, then yes, this is his story. Read it. Now this is what happened in his words. This is what he says happened. Maybe it'll get him a more of an open mind. Okay, now I understand. Sometimes when people speak for themselves, you understand it better. That's the difference between somebody taking a stand and somebody not taking a stand. When they get on that stand and tell their story, you can look at it from two different points of view. You understand?
Right.
You see two different sides. So, just like the media was standing outside the courthouse, yeah, they was reporting the negative stuff, but a lot of supporters jumped on there to tell what they were seeing and what was going on and tell their truth. If they hadn't done that, then they just would have kept reporting the negative. The ones that decided, okay, we want to put out what the supporters are saying, that would have been the only way they got it. Had said, I'm going to go on here anyway, regardless of what they reported yesterday, I'm still going to go on there and tell them that they railroading this man. They lying on this man.
Right.
So I feel like that's probably how everybody should be looking at that situation. Whether you for him or you not for him. If you have a platform where you put his story out, put it out. Tell it over and over again as many times as you can until that narrative change.
Yes.
Right.
That's true.
I mean,
and hopefully, like, people will analyze, do their own research, and know the truth for themselves.
That's where I have a problem. And here's why I say this is where I have a problem. Because people are only concentrating on conspiracy theories, opinions, and things of that nature. And the reason why I say that is because some of the things that are going on, I think wouldn't even been possible if people would have just did a simple search and said, let me check out where this information is coming from. Let me do my due diligence on how this person even appeared. And then I think that it would have been an entirely different story. And the reason why I think that that's very important is because the majority of R. Kelly's case, be it how conspiracy, RICO, whatever, all of those things you guys have to understand come as a result of one thing: somebody telling. Those charges are all as a result of somebody talking. None of those charges require evidence. It starts off with somebody's mouth. This is why it's very important who says what. Because the person that says what can create more of a problem. Conspiracy today, all you need to do is have somebody say your name on the telephone 3 or 4 times. Then people listening to that phone, now you in the middle of a conspiracy. They ain't never seen you sell no drugs. But because the drug dealer that they caught has mentioned your name, you're now involved in that conspiracy. So do you think it's not important to know who's talking about you on the phone? Who's talking about you on the internet? Who's talking about you on the radio? That's very important, because that's the first defense mechanism on how to protect you from being in harm. And I just see that not a lot of people have done that. I think everybody is focusing on the wrong thing. Dottie, I agree with you 100% to change the narrative. So let me change my narrative. Let me ask you guys, how do we change the narrative? And give me a point that you think we should harp on to assist in changing it.
Are you asking me?
I'm asking everybody. Everybody can answer that. How do we change the narrative?
Go ahead, Dottie. Several ways you can. Go ahead, Dottie.
Well, I personally, like you were saying, I went to the trial just so I can see for myself, because I'm a person that's going to research. I don't need to sit and listen to somebody feed me information. I get it on my own. Mm-hmm. But when I went to that trial, and I said how many different times the story changed, when I heard how much time the government had to spend with these certain witnesses, days, weeks, months, going over their stories. The truth don't need that much coaching. Truth don't need no coaching at all. If you went through all of what you went through for 5 years, why do you need 30 hours of going over your testimony? Makes no sense. So things like that. 1 minute you saying he's a good guy, you crying on his show, he's this, he's telling you good things. The next minute you said, oh no, he was this, he was that. Then you get into the courtroom under oath and you admit that you lied about certain things, that you were told to do certain things. Those are the things that I feel people need to look at, because they're judging him based off of what these witnesses have said, but they're not hearing the whole truth. They hearing what they telling what they putting on their little YouTube channels, their Instagram, or the little the little interviews they doing with the magazines and stuff. But they're not hearing all the parties that was involved, how they met this man. One thing's for sure, R. Kelly never went looking for any of these people. That's one thing that's for sure. They don't understand. People that's not following it the way we're following it don't understand how many times their stories changed. How many times, 1 minute they this, 1 minute they that. And then again, when evidence is being presented to them, when Kenneth was actually cross-examining some of these witnesses, when they was questioned by the federal government, they even told them this didn't happen, that didn't happen. But then they come in the courtroom and say something totally different. That alone will make anybody say, hold on, something not right. But that's not getting out. So that's one of the things that I would definitely be putting out constantly to change that narrative. Because come on now. Anybody will look at that situation and be like, hold on now, 1 minute you said this, and then if they heard all the people that played part in this, I mean, when I was in trial, it just blew my mind. I listened to the last interview you guys did, and I don't care what the government did, how shady they was, all the under the table stuff that they did. I sat in there for 7 weeks. I still did not see enough evidence to convict this man on all the stuff that they came and convicted him with. There was not enough evidence for that stuff. It was testimony that was going to be impeached. I've never heard of nobody's testimony, one of the main witnesses, where the judge is saying to the jury, if y'all want to impeach that testimony, I'll let y'all impeach that testimony. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I would stay on these victims because it's just, and then you have the same story. Every single person is telling the same exact story. So you mean to tell me with not one of y'all in how many years did he change up any kind of way? Shabazz, you a man. Mm-hmm. Are you the same man with your woman now that you was when you was with your woman 10 years ago or with a different woman 10 years ago?
Definitely not. I agree.
It makes no sense.
It makes sense because they were all programmed.
By who?
That's why the government had to spend so much time with them because they had to be consistent in their lying. Yeah. You don't have to be consistent. You know what I'm saying? When you're telling the truth just flows. You remember, everybody don't tell the same truth.
Right.
But when you're programming someone to tell a lie, they're going to tell that same freaking lie because they're being programmed.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think the cause is? Do you think the cause of being programmed is money? Is something the government promising them?
It's money. It's greed. And now they're trying to go after his masters.
Wow.
I mean, you got to look at it like this. If you with R. Kelly, you're going to be used to a certain lifestyle. If you go away to jail and you got people all in your ear telling you, well, he might not be coming home. He might not be doing this. He might not be doing that. You is going to jump on the next thing and say, well, you know, if he ain't coming home, well, I got to get it some other kind of way. And I'm going to flip and I'm going to try to sell my story and I'm going to get my exposure this kind of way. It's about self.
That's right. I'm going to become a victim. Exactly. Some of them even been trying to become victims.
Yeah, he ain't coming home. He ain't coming home, so we might as well go do this. We might as well do that.
Yes, exactly. Because you had some of them that was with him on up until he was arrested. And then now all of a sudden you're the victim. You're alleged victim.
Well, you had some of them that testified they left and then for years begged this man to come back and didn't speak up or say anything until after certain attorneys reached out to them for a story. Wow. Or to after he was incarcerated because they don't believe he getting out. So why not? Okay, I'm going to get my exposure this way.
Wow. Wow.
And I've read and I've seen some of the texts that some of these victims, and to be honest with you, they're the stalkers, not him. They're the stalkers. He's telling them the truth, and they're the stalkers.
You know what?
Believe that.
Let me ask you this, coming from a woman's perspective, because we're talking about females. Break down the mentality of a female who does stuff like that. What, in your opinion, do you think? How do you think they think? And we now have. Let's just keep it a general. Or if you want to, go after an accuser, that's fine too. But I'm just trying to.
I wouldn't. Me myself as a woman, I don't go after men like that because I make sure that, I get out and I bust my butt to get the things that I need for myself in life so that I can be a positive source for my man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But bottom line, for myself, I'm able to take care of myself. I don't want a man to take care of me.
Okay.
So I have something going on for myself.
And that all ties into a mentality. That's what it ties into. I'm not going to send a man to prison for the rest of his life and destroy his 30-year career because I need a bag. I need to make sure I get a bag. I just can't see that. That's a mentality that is far from me. And then I start asking, and I have to ask the question: did anybody in that camp, any of those females have their own? Did any of them have their own? Any of them? Did any of them have their own house? Did any of them have their own vehicle? Did everything come through Robert?
Right.
Okay, well, if everything came through Robert, that's a whole different saga right there. That's just like someone just said, was it Cassandra? Was it you, Dottie? So one of you all just said they're used to a certain lifestyle.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you're used to a certain lifestyle. I mean, that says it all right there. I'm gonna do whatever I got to do to maintain this. But what about women that already have their own? But because all the ones that are around them, you know what I'm saying, around him that had that they had that mentality. When you have women that come in on the scene and want to help and they have their own, they got to be deemed as, oh, you just want money.
Gold diggers.
Gold diggers. Oh, they're not this, they're not that. Cassandra and I have our own. We have our own. So to be deemed as gold diggers, I could care less. I am so over all of that. Over the years, I'm so over all of that. But it's all about a mindset. And I'm sorry, yeah. I could never send someone that was good to me the way Robert was good to these women. I could never see myself sending him to prison because I am mad. I am angry. I'm mad. And he put the rules and regulations out there. He has more than one female friend.
Well, bottom line, he lays out the rules and regulations for his home, period. You know, as I do for my home and you do for yours, you do for yours. You know what I'm saying? So it's certain rules that you have to abide by. And I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly everything that happened. You know what I'm saying? So I can't speak against anyone. I only can speak for myself. And I just know that, when you can just stand for yourself and have for yourself and your mind is more free.
I think that you guys are in a lot of pain. I can kind of sense it, and I think that's natural. But let's take away the pain for a second, and let's try to go into something that would be more pleasant. Give me anything within the past couple of years that you witnessed from him that was positive and brought a smile to your heart.
Witness from supporters?
With you. Or his supporters, whatever you've seen that brought a smile to you.
I know I saw, I think it was an African priest in a church that got together. They did like a parade and they were singing Free R. Kelly. And it was just really beautiful with the banners and it was in Africa. So it was really beautiful. And that brought a smile on my face.
Dottie, you must be in the wind.
No, that's not me.
Who is that?
I'm sorry.
Somebody is definitely in the wind.
It was me.
Oh, okay. Dottie, you've been on this case for quite a while. Tell me something that you've seen positive that brought a warming to your heart. Not just a smile on your face, just something that just kind of restored your faith in his innocence.
When you talk about that Rob did?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, listening, and when I sat in there and I listened to, as I was listening to the testimony of some of the witnesses, or even when I listened to Kenneth when he was cross-examining some of the witnesses, and when he was saying how he celebrated Christmases with these girls, he would he rented a mansion at one time and he decked it all out and had Christmas trees, and he even I think he said that he hired performers to perform for these girls. He gave each one of them $10,000 a piece to shop for each other. He made sure, at all times, he made sure that he was protected. But you know what's crazy is because of how the government twisted that. Like when they would talk about him not letting them off the bus. When he came down to it, he didn't let them off the bus because there was no security, and he didn't know where they were, so he was concerned for their safety and things like that. Just making sure that they was taking care of each other. How he treated the relationship. What I do with you, you don't have to go around and telling it to everybody else because he didn't want to make the other girlfriend feel some type of way. So he cared about their feelings. When presidents was being shown in the courtroom and they showed Azriel's part, when he broke down and just cried when he heard that, and she was speaking so positive of him, it just, that brought tears to my eyes. That really hurt because I could just feel this man, how can you go from that to this?
Yeah.
I know you said something positive. I'm sorry, Shabazz, but those are things that really touch my heart. And it's like he's human, just like the rest of us. That's to take some things, argument, and I think little stuff was exaggerated in court. You know what I'm saying? To make it more ugly, to make it ugly. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They exaggerated stuff where it didn't happen like that. Some things was even, to me, impossible to happen like that. If I'm living in the real world, I have relationships, I know how certain things will go down. That don't make no sense.
Right. Can you give me an example?
It makes no sense.
Can you give me an example of one of those things, Dottie?
Oh, man. Okay, so I'm going to say Jane Doe because that's what in the transcript and in court they refer to her as.
Okay.
So what didn't make sense to me is when it came to her age. Now, it was supposed to be she went with him at 17 in April.
Right.
She testified that she did lie about her age. Actually, her mother made the lie up to begin with because she was speaking with him before Jane Doe was. So, but she went along with it. So she said, come right before school got ready to start. That's when she told him her real age. So for these months, April, May, June, July, August, 5 months, she had this man believing that she was 18 years old and on her way to college. So in one of the charges was him sleeping with her as an underage girl in California, because in California you're not technically legal at 17.
Okay.
But if she sat on that stand and she clearly said, I did not tell him my real age until I got ready to go back home, and the reason I had to tell him was because school was finna start and I needed him to send me back home. So she stated herself, I didn't tell him right away. How can y'all charge him and find him guilty of knowing her age when they were in California in April?
Mm-hmm.
How is he found guilty on that? And just so you know, that's what all that. Other than that, there was no underage child anything. That's the only reason they have all this underage child stuff. It came from that right there. But she clearly said he did not know her age until they were in Chicago. I'm from Chicago, so I know exactly what she's talking about. They were at the park. She mentioned to him her age. He got up. He smacked her. Okay, that was wrong. And then he walked off. She ran off. He searched for her for 2 hours. When he found her, he apologized. He told her we'll figure this out. He sent her home the exact next. Now these are her words. He sent her home the exact next day. He called his attorney. His attorney called the parents. He called the parents. The parents turned around, sent her right back to him. So the letter that everybody sees is the first letter that they drew up. Once they pulled that move and he found out the age, they actually went to the court and got an affidavit, a legal document to sign her over back to him.
Wow.
And that's a lot of things that people don't know. If you didn't go to the court or you didn't get on your YouTube when we were reading it, or when I was reading my notes and things like that, you wouldn't really necessarily know those things.
Wow.
But how is he being held responsible? How is he being found guilty when you have the government's witnesses testifying he didn't know?
That's right.
Wow. That is
But
crazy.
it's a lot of truth out there, and it's like no one, I mean, the government is just looking past that. They're looking past all the videos. They're looking past all the comments. I mean, it's stuff out there that has already been said, that was said from the people, some of the people in this trial, and they I'm sure they have the videos and they just look past it.
Can I say why I think that they look past that?
Sure.
Why?
Because I feel like they're looking at it like this is a black man in 2002 was accused of the same stuff. He walked into our courts and he walked out a free man. We cannot let that happen again with all of this lifetime and everything saying that he's still doing the same thing. So at this point, I don't think they really give a damn if he's in jail for life or a day. As long every dollar he got, they're going to be satisfied.
That's correct. That's correct.
I've been saying it has this racial undertone since day one, and people tried to stray away from that. So you do know that you're implying that it's kind of racial, Dottie.
Say that one more time.
I've been saying that it's been a racial undertone to the entire R. Kelly case since day one. But based on just what you said, with it being a black man, you do know that implies that it's racial as well, correct?
Absolutely.
And I agree.
Why do you think?
Absolutely. I think that definitely plays a big part in it.
Why do you think people stray away from the racial part?
I don't know.
Good question. That's a good question.
I mean, I don't know why they would, because to me, the only way you're going to fight it is if you address it head up. If you keep running from it, we're going to be having these same issues 20 years from now.
Truth.
So I can't say why people run from it. I'm actually dealing with it with my children in their high school, where these Caucasian kids think it's okay to walk around talking about monkeys on the porch and picking cotton and this and that. It's 2021. So I don't know. I'm going to address it head up. I'm going to call a spade a spade. It is what it is. Right. I think it would have been done differently. I think he would have at least, they didn't even let this man fight his case. He didn't have a fighting chance. He would have at least had that. He wouldn't have been dragged in the mud through the media the way that he was had he not been black. If you wanted to know about Epstein, if you wanted to know about Weinstein, you had to search them. You didn't wake up every morning and it was in the headlines.
I mean, they overkilled making Robert look like this mass murderer. They overkilled it. Helicopters flying over his head, being chained. They overkilled it. They created that narrative. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that said that noticed that. They overkilled it.
Let me go here. Let me ask you another question in regards to the letters that you've read. Tell me some of the other things that he talks about in these letters.
He talks about being put in that shoe, and he could start seeing. He started realizing, because he writes in a lot of detail. Some things I can't say, not right now anyway. Okay. But one thing he was talking about is he didn't understand why is it the other inmate that got put in the shoe with him, he could go out and see his attorney, have attorney visits, whether it was on Zoom or whatever, but yet he couldn't. And he's like, wait a minute, why am I not able to go see my attorney?
At the time of the attorney, who are we talking about exactly when he's questioning this?
Steve was his attorney at the time. Steve and Mike Leonard were his attorneys at that time.
But let me just tell you something. I don't know if you know or not. You do know that Nicole Becker put a stop to a lot of that, and she became the only attorney that was actually allowed to see him and that would actually go. The friction the friction between Nicole and Steve became so much till Steve kind of just bowed out. And I have it on tape. We filmed her, and we filmed her going to the jail quite a lot. She would I knew her schedule because she told me. And she would fly out maybe every other weekend or whatever just to go see R. Kelly. Do you think that the jail might have thought that there was something funny going on and prevented it because of that?
No, I think that the jail and certain officers and certain people in there had something to do with this treatment.
But it would have to be.
I feel like the attorney should have done more and pressed down on that jail for the way they were treating him. I'm sure he was trying to. I'm sure he told the attorneys. How he was being treated. I told the attorneys how he was being treated. I told the attorneys the things that he was getting in contact with me, and they were telling him, and I was relaying the messages. I did.
So it never dawned on you to ask why? Did anybody ever stop and say, why, let me really sit down and look at this picture and think to myself why this could be happening? Did anyone do that?
If someone did do that, Cassandra and I did that many a times, but we weren't trying to, lower the boom down on him. Being the fact he was in there, we knew, and he knew, and he and that's one thing he wrote too. He didn't want to get on the wrong side of the officers.
Right. So you think the officers initiated the mistreatment of him in the prison?
Getting him out of jail, humiliating him to sing.
Wait a minute. They're making him sing. Wait. Go back. Say that again. Tell me that. I don't.
I said this. I put this out before what he told me to put out. Getting him out of jail and making him sing. Okay, he's thinking, okay, if I sing, then maybe I'll be able to get more food, or maybe I'll be able to get a cup of coffee, or maybe I'll be able to get this or that. Okay, he didn't get those things.
So they would take him out of his cell and make him sing.
That's humiliating. He was humiliated.
So wait,
they were definitely trying to break his spirit.
So wait, they were taking him out of his cell and taking him where? To the gym or to somewhere with a CO?
No, getting him out of jail and causing him to sing to the other inmates. And the question is why? Why did he have to be humiliated that way?
Wow.
So they would basically come to his cell door, open the cell door, and I guess one officer made him sing "Happy Birthday" to her.
So that's the one I was. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he felt like because when the inmates do extra things, they get rewarded, maybe extra food. So he wanted some hot water for his coffee. And when he asked her after he sang "Happy Birthday" if he can get it, she told him no. And then other times they would come and flash the light on him just to show other officers that was really him inside of that cell.
Wow. Did he ever release the names of these officers?
No, he didn't.
No.
Not yet.
Is there a plan to?
I'm not sure.
Wow.
I'll leave that to his legal representation. But
I would think the main thing they're focusing on is getting him out.
That's correct. Because the things that have been done to him, that's why I said his true supporters, I just really don't believe in my heart his true supporters are out there being extra. I just don't believe they're bashing, they're going back. I really believe they were the investigators. They were the ones that's making phone calls, writing letters, because they knew this man, he really needs help. This could be my child. This could be somebody in my family. So this could be my loved one that's being treated this way.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is a lot.
That's crazy.
That is definitely a lot for one to bear. Give me your honest opinion on how you think his mental is. How you think this is affecting him?
He has his days where his faith is high. He has his days where he just feels like giving up. And that's understandable. Look at the people that he thought he could trust, he can't. He's been all his money has been raked over. He's been lied on. He's been made to look like this pedophile. And he's not. He's not a pedophile.
You know what? Let me just define the word pedophile. Let me tell you what I thought pedophile was in my head prior to this case. I would consider someone who was messing with like little girls a pedophile. So when I first heard the R. Kelly case and they said that he was a pedophile, first thing that came to my mind is pedophile. That means somebody 12 or 13 years old. And I'm going to be totally honest. And it may come back to bite me in the ass, but it is what it is. Coming from the hood and coming from what I've seen, you never consider a 17-year-old or 18-year-old girl pedophile material. And the reason why is because I don't know. I don't know why. When I hear pedophile, for me, up until this case, I always said, when you hear pedophile, you really think like little kids where you're going to die if you mess with a 10-year-old or 7-year-old. So I think when they put that headline out, a lot of people's minds immediately went to a child. 17 is not an adult. I do, I understand that. But at the end of the day, for the most part, coming from where I come from, 17-year-olds are not looked at as children. Technically, they are. So when you hear the word pedophile, you think 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old.
And that's what they want you to think.
Right. And I
that's
think,
called wordplay. Yeah. They purposely did that. That's just like I read about, and it was something that happened to, a baby. Instead of and it was a child that was actually 2 years old, but they put in the paper as 24 months.
Right.
So it's all about wordplay.
Yeah.
Well, since we're speaking on pedophiles, how many people know any pedophiles that ask for ID? How many girls do you know that come across a pedophile where they got to lie about their age up instead of down?
Right.
That's not normal pedophile behavior. Epstein, when I studied his case, the girls, as they got older, he kept them looking young by putting braces on them, making them wear ponytails, things like that, because he wanted them to continue looking very, very young. R. Kelly went and got these girls big boobs. They walking. That's not a characteristic of a pedophile to me. Big boobs will make them look older and more mature, if you ask me.
Yeah, true. I agree. I never thought about it that way. Go ahead, Dottie.
Yeah, it's just the opposite. They wearing heels, they wearing makeup, they got lace fronts on. What 12-year-old, 13-year-old walking around with a wig on their head?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, depending on who the parent is, but you get what I'm saying.
I get it.
That's not the characteristics of a pedophile. We want a little girl. We want you to look like, if you're 17, we want you to look like you're 12. So it's gonna be just the opposite. The fact that they was able to go into court and say all of this, but yet people still convicted this man of that, is just, again, it blows my mind.
Well, what blows my mind even more so is that you're just a regular person, and I'm not saying in a derogatory way. You have no law degrees or anything. And if that comes to your mind as a regular person, why the hell didn't it come to the lawyers' minds to say that?
I don't know.
This is why I don't understand why even you guys, and you can get mad at me, I don't understand why you champion for these people. And at the end of the day, you guys are asking more valid questions and having better thoughts than a lawyer. Because none of the things that you just said on this podcast was said in court. And that's what some should, because you just changed my mind and made me think about that with the pedophilia behavior. You're right. If you want a little girl, you would not buy her boobs. You would not enlarge her behind, because you would want her to stay looking like a little girl. The moment that you start altering your body, you're definitely making yourself look older. I never really thought about it that way until you just said it. Just imagine if somebody in the legal department would have said that in the courtroom. So it's like you've given me an epiphany. So with that epiphany, now it makes me say, and go even harder to say, yo, them lawyers ain't shit. Because if they ain't said what you just said and you're not a lawyer, what the hell did you have them for a lawyer for? Mm-hmm. See, what I think the problem is you guys want to go hard, and I'm going to go hard on you for a moment. But you don't really want to go hard because you ain't saying the shit that needs to be said. You know it in your heart and you know it in your gut, but for the sake of whatever, you don't want to step on somebody's toes, or you don't want it to be this way or that way. This is part of the R. Kelly problem. I think the bloggers, they may go ahead and say it, but I do not think the people that are directly around R. Kelly, I'm not going to say balls. They don't want to really say too many things because it has the potential to hurt him. But at the end of the day, you got to look at what's real. And he already hurt. Like, what do you got to lose at this point? He's looking at 90 years, which is life. So if you don't come out and you start banging and hitting people with the truth and the facts, you're actually an accessory to his demise. So I'm not giving anybody any awards or no accolades or no applause for losing a case when they could have said the same thing Dottie just said. Because you're a lawyer. You're supposed to use your mind. You're supposed to use your mouth. If you've not done that, then how are you a lawyer? And this is where I have my problem. And I think that is a lot going around in the R. Kelly case, because this is just not about guilt or innocence for me. It's about being a black man. And a lot of people don't like that. I've always said this from the door. It was racially based. I'm always going to believe that. And it doesn't matter if it was R. Kelly or Pookie. if we allow the treatment to R. Kelly like that, then the average black man doesn't stand a chance. And this is why I also feel like if you're going to get him, be it guilty or innocent, play fair. Because if you don't play fair, you're just as bad as what you're accusing him of. I've always said that as well. So let me ask you this and change that. If we were to write out a 5-point bulletin, tell me the 5 things that we would need to really change the narrative and become effective in trying to show the wrongs that have taken place in this case. And each one of you guys can answer that. 5-point
I would
say,
and one at a time.
Correcting that. Tell about some of the good things he's done.
Okay.
No, not good things. The great things he's done.
Okay.
I had a man contact me about, his son was the gentleman. Robert took the shoes off his feet to give to his son. Now, how many black men going to take his expensive shoes off his feet and give them away? I don't know any.
Right. That's one.
And I say it starts with people. They have to have an open mind for truth,
Definitely.
and analyze information for themselves.
Definitely. Okay, 2. Let's get to 3.
Well, I've already said, I feel like, one of the major things we need to focus on the victim's testimony.
Okay.
And I think you would have to go from the start of his career up until today to see exactly what led to these certain acts coming and who were people that played certain parts in this. What were the wrong hands that he shook in his career that led to this point. So do a whole background on every single person that came in, because he should have had a gatekeeper in the beginning, but every single person that touched this man's hands, that sat down with him at a table, that signed a contract with him, that introduced him to someone, that walked through the mall with him, whatever, a background check done on him to lead to why this happened to him, as well as the witness's testimony. That's what I think.
And it goes back, what Dottie just said goes back to access denied. Access denied.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think there's definitely access denial gate that needs to be established, because just based on what I hear and what I see, it's not. And I think it has the potential to come back to bite him in the ass. So is there anything else that you've read from him that you guys want to talk about or can talk about?
You can talk about, because I think Lisa already touched on, because I didn't read their letters. I'm just listening to, what the blogger said after he was reading the letters. Tuberculosis. Having a tuberculosis, and when he will go and he will report these things to the prison doctor, he noticed that he was never taking notes. He was never writing anything down, and he was giving some lame excuse for why he had these symptoms. He asked for a psychologist a few times because he started having nightmares. Being in the shoe for 71 days, that's gonna mess up anybody's mental. So when he started having bad dreams, things like that, it wasn't being addressed.
That's correct.
Other things in the letter. So he developed tuberculosis. He developed diabetes. At least that was in your letter. So the other things he touched on, what she was saying with his legal paperwork, they actually had to file a motion to try to get his paperwork from MCC, and that never happened. Well, he received it 2 weeks after the trial was over. Like he said, he couldn't. He don't read, so everyone else was able to get iPads and get their things off of there. He wasn't able to do that. He was never. Oh, and then the fact that he said when he was arrested, he was never served any paperwork. He's never seen a search warrant. He said he's never. I think he said he haven't even seen a badge.
A badge.
It was a lot of. you know, when they arrested him, they just pulled up on him.
Oh, okay.
They didn't show up, you know, and arrested him.
And everything that he reports about his health is always downplayed.
Mm-hmm.
On top of not being written down, it's downplayed.
You know what?
It's downplayed.
Let me be the devil's advocate, and I don't want to be, but I have to be. What I think you guys need to do is you need to toughen up, and you need to toughen up by squaring up. And when I say squaring up, I think that you need to talk to Kelly, and then you need to tell him that he needs to contact you guys and allow you to freely say what needs to be said. And it can't be where I don't want to step on anyone's toes. I don't want to do this. Man, it's too late for that. Because at the end of the day, time is ticking and you have nothing to lose but your life.
It's not that I don't want to step on anyone's toes. I want to make sure that I get with his attorney to make sure what I'm putting out there is the, you know what I'm saying? It's not coming back to affect Robert. I don't care about the toes I step on at all. Believe me.
Okay.
I think they're looking at it from a point where even when this is all said and done with in New York, we still got to worry about Chicago.
Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
So it's a lot of other things that they're concerned about that we don't want to touch on because, like we were saying, had certain things hadn't been said publicly before this New York trial, it probably would have went a little bit better in his favor. So we don't want to, say the wrong thing or say too much. But I get what you're saying because this is not a place to sugarcoat shit.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, what I don't think Lisa and Cassandra is acknowledging or understand is that there are other people who are setting a narrative and a tone based on what is being alleged that they've gotten from R. Kelly. That, I think, has the potential to hurt him. And I think it has the potential to hurt him because you have to have a credible person to do that. You can't have someone who's been in the system, and that would go for myself. So I'm a shit on myself. I think you have to have someone who's stern and firm, and you can have been in the system, but you can't have been negotiated. You can't have been a confidential informant. You can't have been someone who's cooperated with the system because they have their claws in you. Like, you just can't. So I think that if you prepare beforehand and you put it out there to set the tone, then they have to play off of that. But if you have to play off of what they put out, you're going to lose because they're stronger. They have a bigger voice. They have more money. We're dealing with the government. And is that you have the chance to win and try to show as much innocence as you can, but you have to get it out there. So I think that that's what you guys really need to do. I understand that Chicago is getting ready to come up, but I don't even think that Chicago may come into play if he gets hit with 90 years. There would be no need to sentence him or take him to trial in Chicago. You do realize that, right?
Well, we're hoping that Chicago won't come into play because they're going to see everything in New York was BS, and he's going to win on that appeal or with this motion that's coming out. And then they're going to realize, okay, because you remember, Chicago ain't nothing but a repeat of 2008.
Okay.
So that's all that is. So hopefully with New York going away and him beating that, then Chicago will just go away too.
Well, me being a New Yorker, I could just tell you this. New York play dirty. Like, if they want you, they're going to get you. If they'll put something in your pocket. Like, they just play dirty. It's a whole nother level.
But see, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. I really believe they didn't care if they won or not because they already got their victory. At the end of the day, if he come out, we got to look at this logically. If he come out on an appeal, everybody's still going to look at him and say, well, you guilty. You just won the appeal. And I think that's all they care about. They still already messed this man's name up. They didn't race his pockets. They didn't drain them. They succeeded on what their goal was. They did what they were supposed to do. Them prosecutors had to win their case to keep their job. They kept their job. So they good.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that.
Yes.
So listen, guys, we're going to wrap this up, and this is my advice to you. Be it with me or whoever you decide to do it with, I think that you need to come back, and I think that you should, you know what? This would be the irony for me. You need to read the words of R. Kelly from your mouth. You know what I mean? And add some truth to it if that's possible. And it doesn't matter what the words are, but I think that R. Kelly needs to be able to speak through someone where people can believe it. And then I don't know if everybody's going to still believe it, because then you're going to still have people who go left and then some going to go right. But I think you need to counter what's being said. And I do think, again, that it has the potential to hurt him, because I think it does. I don't know about legally. Well, I'm not going to say about legally, because I think it could hurt someone's feelings as a result of, you know, what's being put out there. Someone can internalize that and say, you know what, I'm just not going to say nothing. I'm going to wait till it's time for sentencing, and then we just going to slam his ass. You know, so you have to be careful on how you approach, and I'm sure you guys know that. But I think you guys definitely have to have a counter, and I think that needs to be told to him. Somebody needs to have balls and stand up and tell him, yo, listen, this is how it's supposed to go, this, that, and the other. And do it for the sake of help, not for the sake of profit. The one problem that I have with the information that's being put out is it's always for profit. As soon as you tell me anything that comes out of R. Kelly's mouth and you tell me cash app me, you full of shit. Like, help is not a cash app. You're not helping R. Kelly, you're helping yourself. If you help somebody, I've never seen help cost. The purpose of help is because you don't have, and someone does it because they have a genuine concern for you. But you lose all of the genuine concern the moment that you profit. So even though I've heard people say, well, you know, this person got paid for this and this person got paid for that. If you begging for money, you just like the person who got paid for it too. What's the difference? There should be no money involved if you're fighting for the innocence. When white kids get together from these colleges and they go to the Innocence Project and they try to get out people who've been wrongfully convicted and been in jail for 20 years, they never ask for donations. I've not seen a cash app on anybody's screen with a white kid trying to get a black man out of jail. Never. And I'm familiar with the Innocence Project. But with us, I'm going to read this letter, but you got to give me some money. Whether it's subtle or whatever, that's not help. So if the moment that you take money, I don't believe that there's trust. That's just my personal opinion. Listen, guys, I appreciate you. Is there anything you want to say? Because like I said, I know he can hear this. I'm sure he's getting to hear what's being said and getting the gist of it. What would you like to say? If you could speak to him right now, speak.
Go ahead, Cassandra.
Well, I just want to, you saying speaking to Robert?
Yes.
Yes. Just to keep your head up. I love you. And just stay focused on truth.
Next person.
I want to say that, you know, you are who you are. No one can take anything from you. No one can take your accomplishments from you. You will bounce back. Put God first and stand tall.
Dottie?
I would just say, you know, you said to get your word out, to keep telling your story. So I just hope that he's pleased with what we said tonight and going forward. And I just want him to remember that no weapon formed upon you, no weapon formed against you will prosper.
Shall prosper.
Amen.
And just keep your head up and just know, you know, this is going to come to an end. The narrative will change some way or the other. And like you said, Shabazz, I agree. We got to come stronger. And at some point, you know, we got to be able to tell everything and just reach all the people like he's saying that he wants us to reach.
Yeah.
And we will do that.
That's the only way. We have to be a voice for him. That's the only way. And I just hope that he's pleased. I hope that he's pleased with, you know, what we got out tonight.
Yeah. And listen, I think you guys are doing a great job, because I will fight for somebody that, if I fuck with you, I fuck with you. I'm gonna hold you down. And you don't have to agree with this at all. But in my case, if I knew you was a rapist, if I knew you was a murderer, if I knew you was a drug dealer, and you was my man, you still my man. Whatever they hit you with is not gonna change the fact that we friends and then I fuck with you. So you're supposed to fight for people that you believe in. So those that don't understand that, you know, you just don't understand. But again, I think you need to come hard, and I think, you know, it needs to be a point to where it's just like, I don't give a damn what nobody say, what nobody think. You know, I'm just going to bring it, because guess what? That's what they're going to do to him. So listen, guys, I appreciate you. You know where I'm at. Let me know when you want to do something else again, and I don't have a problem doing it. We're going to do this, and I'm leaving this on the air. We're going to do this. We're going to have a weekend of R. Kelly. I think I told you, but I'll tell you again. we're also getting ready to expose Choke No Joke. I interviewed the young man that he was a confidential informant for. And this is the same young man who's going to speak for himself out of his mouth. He shows his paperwork, and we'll see what happens with that. But thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Not a problem.